So please sit down and welcome to this afternoon session on committing security. We will have 3 talks, and I have good news. All the slides for the talks have been uploaded, and the correct slides have been uploaded. So for the other speakers in the next few days, remember to upload your slides. Okay, so the speaker for the first talk on key committing security of easy and more is Akiku Inoue, and I will not read all the other 9 authors here, so please start.
Thank you for introduction. I'm Akiko Inoue from NEC Corporation, and this is a joint work with Yulon Chen, Antonio Flores Gutierrez, ヨマイと哲岩田、勝彦根松、ニキムハ、ユースケナイト、フェルディナンス・シブレリアス、and ヨスケトド。Okay, let's start with what AED is. AED is, as we all know, symmetric key crypto system to provide privacy and authenticity simultaneously. Encryption function takes key, nonce, AD, and plain text as input, and then output ciphertext, including tag. And then decryption function takes key, nonce, AD, and ciphertext as input, and then output plain text when inputs are authentic. Otherwise, returns error message. The basic security of AED is, of course, privacy and authenticity. On the other hand, the advanced security have been studied, such as nonce misuse, decryption misuse, and our target, key committing security. Okay, key committing security, KCS, is a guarantee that ciphertext is a commitment of secret key. This is evaluated by collision resistance of encryption function. In KCS, adversary can choose the value of secret key, so the standard security notions do not capture key committing security. And these days, there has been an increased demand by attacks exploiting non-key committing secure AED. For example, attack on message franking, partitioning local attack, and so on. And also, ongoing NIST accordion cipher project includes KCS as one example of desired security property. Okay, let's see the definition for KCS. We have several definitions for KCS, but we follow the one proposed by Berare and Huang. In this definition, an adversary is computationally hard to find 2 distinct inputs of encryption function that have the same ciphertext. And we have different level of this security. CMT1 security requires different keys, and the CMT3 and CMT4 require different these pairs. And Berare Juan proves that the CMT3 is equivalent to CMT4, so we focus on CMT1 and CMT4. Okay, let's move on to our target, encode then and cipher. Firstly, wide block cipher, WBC, is a block cipher supporting variable input length. And WBC can be converted to AEAD by encode, then encipher, ETE. ETE first encodes an input message M by appending tau bit zeros, and then encipher with a WBC. Decryption function deciphers ciphertext and check whether this deciphered string follows the encoding rule. If it is okay, output decoded string M. Regarding security of ETE, ETE is proven to be robust AE. However, there is no key committing security analysis on concrete ETE schemes. Ideally, ETE has bit key committing security when assuming the underlying WBC is an ideal cipher and C is long enough. It is tight because we can mount generic attack in this complexity by trying decryption many times with fixed C and distinct KA until the decrypted value has zeros. And however, again, in practice, WBC is not behaving as ideal cipher. So in this work, we study key committing security of concrete ETE schemes, such as AZ, ETE based on Adiantam, and ETE based on HCTR2. But due to the limited time in this work, I'd like to show the details of AZ analysis. Okay, let's move on to the specification of AZ. AZ is encoder cipher scheme using n-bit TBCE. AZ first encodes plain text by concatenating tau bit 0 at the end of the plain text. So in this figure, this MY includes 0 bit, tau bit zeros. In AZ, enciphering way changes depending on input length. When input length is 256 bits or more, we use AEZ core as shown in the figure. It is our target. Otherwise, we use AEZ tiny, but it is out of scope. AEZ core utilize 4-round phase-tail or 5-round phase-tail, and it uses p-hash-like AD processing. And this delta is XORed to this point. And notably, AZ utilize interesting strategy, proof then prune, which means that firstly proving its security, assuming underlying TBC is TPRP, so ideal, then pruning TBC cost by reducing the number of rounds of TBC or using simpler key schedule. Okay, so let's move on to CMT4 attack, our CMT4 attack on AZ. Recall that CMT4 adversary tried to find distinct input tuples such that the ciphertexts are the same. Let's assume K and M are the same. And then in this case, the adversary wins if it invokes a collision of delta, this one, for distinct AD. Of course, it is easy because the adversary knows the values of secret keys and it can invert this TBC and we can mount O1 CMT4 attack. So CMT4 attack is easy. So let's move on to CMT1 attack and proof on general AZ. General AZ means that assuming the underlying TBC is ideal cipher. The strategy is here. So we focus on this area in the last phase block. And thus, we focus on the collision of the last ciphertext block, CY collision. It is because once getting CY collision, it is easy to get collision on other ciphertext, but I omit the details. Okay, for simplicity, let's assume tau is equal to n. So my is all zeros. So in this case, this area can be viewed as Davis-Meyer construction, as shown in the figure. So, as in the usual Davis-Meyer construction, collision attack works in birthday bound by searching x1, and Y2 pairs such that the difference of them are the same. Also, we can prove that it is tied in the same manner as Ferrari and Huang. Okay, this is the case of tau is equal to n. So what about the case of tau is not equal to n? The answer is this. We can reduce CY collision problem to a generalized birthday problem. In this case, My can be set as this one for non-empty M star. And then this DM-like construction becomes the sum of two TVCs. So it's like cutting here and rotating this TVC is like that. And note that the least significant tau bits of Y1 and X2 are the same, this area, because of the zeros. So to attack this construction, we pick up any distinct keys, K and K prime, and fix these values. And then we search TVC output values such that the sum of all of them becomes 0 by changing values in this area. And we can see that it is generalized birthday problem with 4 list. 1, 2, 3, 4 list. Okay. To solve this problem, we can use K3 algorithm. The complexity becomes 2 to the n over 3, but to achieve this complexity, each list needs 2 to the n over 3 elements. It is possible when tau is 2n over 3 or less. However, it is not impossible in this case because we cannot prepare enough values for each list. Then the success of 4-tree algorithm becomes probabilistic. But we can mount the variant of 4-tree algorithm by repeating 4-tree algorithm with less element of each list until success. So I omit the details, but the whole complexity becomes this one. So to summarize on general AZ, when tau is in this area, generic attack is dominant. And this line is 4-tree algorithm, and this line is above repeated 4-tree algorithm. And this line is DM attack. Okay, this is the general AZ attack. So let's move on to CMT1 attack on full spec AZ. Full spec AZ means that the underlying TVC follows the full specification of AZ. We use the same strategy as the general AZ attack, so we focus on CY collision. In AZ, the underlying TVC is XE style TVC using AES10. Let's assume the key length is 384 and it is split into 3 128-bit subkeys Lij. And these two TVCs are defined as this one. So the upper TVC has a mask of L and the lower TVC has 2L masks. And here AES10 is 10 round AES, but the last round has mixed columns, unlike usual AES, and it has round subkeys of like that. So including the mask, Brown's subkeys are like cyclic, Lij, Lij, Lij. It is important point to attack. Okay, let's see the attack details. Our goal is to find the distinct keys K and K prime such that the difference of x1, y1, x2, and y2 are all zeros. So we first set the difference of x1 is 0 and set difference L so that the difference L and difference 2L have only one active S box. And then we set difference I to cancel out the difference propagation caused by difference L and difference 2L. And then we set J and J primes so that third AES-ENC outputs, this point, go back to X1 or X1 prime. By doing so, we obtain that this area maps from X1 to X1 with probability 1. So recall that the subkeys are the cyclic, so we can repeat this area. So we obtain that the difference of y1, this point, is equal to 0 with probability 1. And then we set my difference is equal to 0, and then we obtain x2 is equal x2 difference is 0. Regarding second AES-10, lower part, the event of y2 difference, this point, is probabilistic. But we have only one active S box per one AES-ENC after 2L difference or L difference, this one and this one. So the attack complexity becomes up at most 2 to the 28, and the actual complexity is 2 to the 27. Okay, to conclude, we show first key committing analysis on concrete ETE schemes. I omit the details, all the details of Adiantam and HTTR2 analysis, but we observed that a small detail that has little impact on the standard model security can significantly impact KCS, which makes some cases difficult to analyze. For future work, analysis of AZ Tiny and other ETE would be interesting. So that's all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So now is your chance to ask questions. No, then I have a question. You mentioned that the mix, and you did put it into boldface, that the mixed columns operation at the end is omitted. Is this important for the attack? So would it not work without the mixed columns operation?
Yes. Thank you for your question. Your question is this one last round has mixed columns matters our attacks for our attack.
Yeah.
Yes. And the answer is yes, because this is the last AES-ENC, and we we set a difference of I such that the cancel out the difference propagation caused by previous L, the L difference propagation caused by L. So I actually not my topic, but in my understanding, without mixed column, if we set difference of I to cancel out different propagation caused by L in this point, we cannot do that in the last one.
Okay,
So
thanks.
it is important.
More questions? Then let's thank the speaker. And the second speaker is Yu Sasaki. And I'm waiting for the title. And the title is Committing. Does it work? The title is Committing Security of ASCII, Crypt Analysis on Primitive and Proof of Mode. And the other authors are Yuzuke Naito and Takeshi Sugawara. Okay, please start.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. And this talk is about committing security of ASCII. And so this is like one-page summary. So we studied the context committing of ASCII. So this not key commitment, the more generalized context commitment. And there's like some known generic attack for AED. So security upper bound of AED with the T-bit tag is T over 2 bits. So ASCII, for the case of ASCII, T is 128. So committing security can be attacked by 64-bit by spending 2 to the 64. And so first is our mode results. And so we proved T over 2 bits of CMT for security of ASCII. Because the attack exists with this amount of bits. So this was the best achievable bound, and which is tight now. And some may want to increase the security because 64 bits is quite practical. So in this case, we want to propose adding Z bits of zeros to the message, which is called, we call it ASCII zero parting. And we prove this security to this amount of bits. And with ASCII's parameter, and the bound becomes a minimum of 64 plus 0 over 2 and 96. So if you use 64, if you append 64 bits of zeros to the message, then the security actually increases up to 96 bits. Okay, so then another is primitive results. So for primitive, we try to mount a reduced number of round attack. And we practically break CMT for security of ASCII up to 3 rounds of ASCII permutation. And this is one round rather than existing collision type attacks. Okay, so this just shows AED, which was also explained in the previous talk. So the encryption is KNAM, and it outputs ciphertext and tag. And in the decryption, if tag is verified, then the message is returned. So otherwise, a failure symbol was returned. And the security of AE is well studied. But AE schemes are sometimes misused or abused beyond their promise. And then that's the problem of the committing security. And so key commitment used to be discussed in the context of a public key crypto. But Farsi et al. Proposed the theoretical framework of the CMT key counterpart. So intuitively, in the AED, like any ciphertext should be decrypted only with the key that is used to generate it. So with that key commitment, an attacker can efficiently find this setting. So KNAM and K-M-A-M-, where K are different and no restriction for other 3. So this is a key commitment. And conventional AE notions don't support the key commitment. And actually, there is some Orderman attacks for many of existing AED, like GCM, GCM-SIB, CCM, Chacha 20, Chacha 40, and so on. So the context commitment, this was also explained in the previous talk. This is a generalization of the key commitment. So now in the context commitment, different values can be located in any of Kn and A and M. So CMT4 guarantees more robust security than CMT1. So we are interested in discussing CMT4 security. Okay, and target is Ascon. Why? Because Ascon is the winner of this lightweight crypto competition, and I think everyone likes Ascon now. And Ascon is permutation-based structures. Now it has a duplex-like mode called Ascon mode, with a dedicated permutation called Ascon permutation. And NIST is standardizing Ascon, and so we think that real-world systems will migrate to Ascon in near future. Then our interest comes. So how strong is Ascon with respect to committing security? And can we improve the CMT4 security of Ascon with a slight change? So that's the motivation. So at the beginning, I told you that for T-bit tag, then the security, the generic tag exists at the cost of 2 to the T over 2. And now I want to explain it. So consider AEAD that the decryption function first computes a tag T dash and verifies its correctness by matching it with the received T. Okay, so then there is a generic attack that interacts with the decryption function. So the attack is quite simple. So first, so the target is the same C in a different context. So we fix ciphertext to some constant value. Now, now the attacker chooses 2 to the T over 2 choices of K, N, and A. And the ciphertext is also fixed. So they want to see that if the generated tag value collides or not. So the collision happens after the 2 to the T over 2 computations. Then for the colliding KNA CT and K-N-N-CT, then they are varied different contexts to break the notion. So for Ascon, T is 128. So the committing CMT for security is at most 64 bits. But CMT4 is offline security. And so typically K-bit security is required for a K-bit key due to the exhaustive search. So if the attackers can simulate everything offline, then it's easy to do some computation. So 64-bit security is too small. It's practical, actually. And so there already exists a lot of previous works on enhancing committing security. The first approach is zero padding, so appending 0 bits to M. But some negative impact is it was originally proposed to improve CMT1 security, so key commitment security, rather than CMT4. Another is ciphertext size increases, so that it makes higher load in bandwidth. So another approach is combining AEAD with collision-resistant hash. There are several schemes called HCE, CTX, or KIVR. This works. This approach works, but it needs extra primitive, collision-resistant hash function, and the security is bounded by the output of the hash function, and it may break black box access to the underlying AEAD. So, both approaches make sense, but have some limitations. And in this research, we consider zero padding because we do not want to modify inside Ascon. Okay, so Ascon is permutation-based crypto, and there is some existing results on the duplex AEAD. So in the standard duplex AED, it easily achieves the committing security because its security is reducible to the indifferentiabilities of the sponge construction. So for example, like Dodds et al. Already proposed a concrete duplex-based scheme that satisfies the key commitment security. And Ascon mode is similar to duplex, but has several important differences. So first is like a red part. So initial state is chosen such that the inner part is controlled by the attacker. So IB is set to like constant key and nonce. And the next one is green part. So the tag is generated from the inner part. So some value is obtained from the inner part. And the third one is bruising, the key. That is chosen by the attacker in the context setting, in context security setting, is added to the inner part. So the attacker can actually touch the inner part. So proof for duplex doesn't work simply, so new proof is required. And this is a very brief proof intuition. So at the first glance, K, so that's the key size, and the new, that's the non size. So those bits of the initial state is controllable. And from the internal state, R bits of the outer part and the T bits of the inner part are observable. So this might degrade the security of to the n minus like max of K plus mu and R plus T bits. However, the things are not so bad because the key masking. So the key masking means the key added after the P1 in the initialization and before the P1 in the last finalization. So this was originally introduced to prevent to limit the impact of the internal state leak, as far as I understand. But those actually behave good in the context commitment again as well. So the key masking serves as a feed forward and prevents security degradation. And so for the second thing, so R bits is leaked, but that is for the encryption part. And the T bits of the inner part are observable, but that is for finalization part. And Ascon uses different permutation, P1 and P2. So those choice prevents from observing R and T bits simultaneously. So in the end, so when Z bits of zeros are padded to M, we can prove this amount of bits of CMT for security of Ascon with 0-bit padding. And if you inject Z is 0, then that means the bound for the Ascon. Okay, so then the upper bound with Ascon's parameters offer a minimum of 64 plus Z over 2 and 96. So 96 comes from the second term. And Z equals 0 is the original Ascon's case, which ensures 64-bit security. And 0 padding increases security by a factor of Z over 2, but the max is 96. And the bound is tight when Z is less than 64 bits. And yeah, so if you append Z bits of zeros, then the number of primitive calls may increase, but there may some case that the number of primitive calls will not increase. So for example, so if the input message is partial in the last block, then you can append 0 to the end of that block, then which does not increase the number of primitive calls. Okay, so then next is like cryptanalytic approaches in the model level. So for primitive analysis, the goal is to find two distinct KNAM that collide on C and T faster than the generic attack. And there are two possible approaches. So we wanna have the same value for C and T. So after the encryption part, we set that the collision preserves. So then the one approach is the red one. So injecting difference in some associated data block and cancel it with the difference in the next associated data block. But second one is injecting difference from nonce and then cancel it with the first associated data block. And we first looked for existing work. And of course, there is no existing work aiming at CMT4, but some previous collision and forgery attacks that take the approach 1 may work. So actually, we found that 2-round collision with complexity to the 62.6 can directly be applied to generate the to attack CMT4 notion with the same complexity. And for 3 rounds, there's one forgery attack which reports differential trail with probability 2 to the minus 117. So if it's then the forgery, it's key to setting. So the attacker needs to spend 2 to the 117 cost to satisfy the trail. But now key committing security is the key setting. So if trail can be satisfied with less of its cheaper cost, then it may work. But I mean, I want to say like a collision with faster than 2 to the 64 is already big challenge even for 3 rounds. And we adapt approach to, I mean, injecting difference in the nonce because this setting hasn't been investigated in previous work, and we want to see the impact. So we searched for differential trail using MLP and practically generated 2 distinct contexts. But MLP model for ASCII permutation is too heavy in general and need a lot of effort to finish to find solutions. The most effective effort is divide and conquer. So in some round, we restricted that only like 2 rows can have difference, and each case is like searched independently. And if we limit runtime to several hours because if a trail exists, then it stops relatively fast, but otherwise continues forever. And so actually we generated some pairs. Okay, so the conclusion, we studied the context committing security of ASCII. And so we showed the bound, and for if 0 is padding, then the security is 64 plus 2, 0/2, and 96. I mean, minimum results. And we, for the primitive, we attack 3 rounds practically, which is like 1 round longer than existing collision type attack. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So questions? No one? Okay, so let me be quite heretical. Yeah. So you propose to extend the message by some redundancy like Z-bit, which means the ciphertext will be Z-bit longer.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be much easier to extend the authentication tag by Z-bit? Then you have the additional benefit of normal, how would I put it, forgery security, improving it even further. And I know that that additional part of the authentication tag wouldn't be masked by the key anymore. But the question is, would that do any harm? Otherwise, it would be obviously simpler.
Well, so among the previous work, the second one, CTX, actually can provide extended tag. But the problem is like black box access. I mean, so yes. Usually the existing underlying AED checks that want to verify the tag as like as it is. So if you put additional scheme to change the tag, then I mean you can't just call the existing ASCII implementation.
So yeah, I know that would be a new version of ASCII. Hint, hint. Some of the designers of ASCII seem to be here. So would you think that would be a good idea if you care about committing security?
I
add the
can't say it's the best, but differently, it's an interesting direction.
Okay.
Yeah, if we modify the underlying
Okay,
AI.
more questions? Yeah. You go. Okay, then let's thank the speaker again.
Thank you.
And the next speaker is Mostafizar Rahman, right? Rahman?
Yeah.
And joint work with Patrick Derbes, Pierre-Alain Fouquet, Takanori Isobe, and André Strottenlohr. And the title is Key Committing Attacks Against AES-Based AEAD Schemes. So please.
Thank you for the introduction. And today I'll give this on key committing attacks against AES-based AED schemes. And thanks. So traditionally, the focus of AED is on the confidentiality and integrity, which ensures that a message is being kept secret while transmitting, as well as it is not being tampered with. But sometimes it is observed in the recently in some studies that it is not sufficient. And one such example is on the attack on the Facebook message franking. So in Facebook message franking, receiver of some bad messages or harassment messages can forward the message to the Facebook for some actions, and it is observed that the study observes that using some tampering and all these things, malicious reporter can report false message, a good message as the bad one also. And based on these studies, additional requirement was suggested, and that is the key commitment, which ensures that a ciphertext can only be decrypted using the original key, which essentially means the ciphertext should commit to a key. So the background of this work is the work is based on mainly the attacking the Aegis and the Rokkais, and there are certain claims on Aegis earlier. Like Aegis was considered to be a fully committing scheme, but although there is no such formal proof, but also in the IITF draft, it is also mentioned as the key committing scheme. And aptly it was considered breaking the committing security of Aegis was also considered as the open problem in FSE 2022. So there are several notions of key committing scheme, committing authentication encryption schemes, and which extends this notion not only to the key, it extends it to the associated data and the plain text and the nonce also. And based on this, there are four notions, which are FROB game, the CMT1 game, CMT3, and the CMT4. And FROB is the most stringent one, and it requires that. So in the sense of game, it requires that adversary should randomly generate some ciphertext with the two sets of key, nonce, and associated data. And the key, nonce, and the associated data and the ciphertext should generate some valid plain text. And after that, adversary wins the game, adversary loses the game if the keys are same or the nonce are unequal, which essentially means that the adversary, to win the game, adversary needs to produce a ciphertext with the different key and the same nonce. In the CMT1 game, this was little bit relaxed, where the condition on the nonce was removed and adversary wins the game if it can produce a ciphertext with two different keys. A more relaxed version of this is the CMT3 one, where the adversary wins if it can produce a ciphertext with different keys or different nonce or different associated data. And finally, the most relaxed version is this one, where adversary wins if it can produce a ciphertext with any unequal, key, nonce, associated data, or the plain text. So this work is on that Aegis and Rockaes. So Aegis was proposed initially in SAC 2013, and it has 3 variants: Aegis 128, Aegis 256, and Aegis 128L. And Aegis 128 is the winner in the Caesar competition in the high performance applications. And it has 4 phases, like many other AEDs, like initialization, associated data processing, and the plain text processing, and the finalization. So this is the state update function of Aegis, and Aegis 128, and it uses 5 128-bit substates, and all the substates goes through 1 round of AES, and each round of the state update function, a 128-bit message or the associated data are being processed. Aegis 256 has also the similar state update function of Aegis 256 is also quite similar. Only here the instead of 5 128-bit substates, 6 128-bit substates are used, and it also has one 128 block of message or associated data processed in each update function. In the case of Aegis 128L, there are 8 128-bit substates, and again all goes through 1 round of AES, and in each state update, 2 128 blocks of messages or associated data are being processed. Next, the Rockaes, and Rockaes was proposed in the Historics 2023, and it also has this initialization, associated data processing, and plain text processing and finalization phases. And it has 7 128-bit substates, and it also has this 1 round of AES operations in the state update function, and each round 2 blocks of 128 messages are being processed. So we can view the transition through the stage through the processing of this key, IV, and associated data, plain text like this. So initially we consider this state IS0, which is essentially the state 0, and we can consider that due to the processing of the key and the IV, it goes some transformation and moves to state IS1. And then due to the processing of associated data, the internal state moves to the IS2. And finally, due to the processing of the plain text, the internal state moves to IS3. And in the finalization state, it has this length of this plain text and the associated data being used, which essentially brings it to the final state IS4. Now, based on this view, the attack overview looks like this. So initially, we are essentially trying to attack the frog game, so which is the most stringent one. And here we need to attack this one using same nonce and different key. So initially we took some key K1, IV1, and associated data AD1 and plaintext P1. And suppose this is considered this as the state transitions. Now, using different key K2 and the same IV1, we get this state IS1, 2. Now we need to, if we can move from this internal state IS1 to IS2, 1, then we can generate the same ciphertext and the tag, essentially, which will break the frog security. And for this, we need equivalent AD star. Note that here, the length of this AD1 should be equals to that of AD star. So now we see the attacks, and this is the attack on Aegis 128. And initially we consider, you can see that, so the initial state, which is corresponds to the IS12, and then there is the states, this T states, which corresponds to the state IS12. And now we need to find a AD star, equivalent AD star, which will map this initial states to these final ones. So due to, the adversary has the information all these states. So using this information, adversary can generate this internal states, and then using the information of T4 and moving back forwards, it just inverting the 1 round AES and moving here and here, it can finally here retrieve the AD star 0. And like this way, using the knowledge of T3, it can retrieve AD star 1 and so forth. Using this, he can retrieve the equivalent AD star. Now, this is for AD star, which has like 5 128-bit blocks, but it can be extended to, arbitrary length also, right? So for the arbitrary AD star, we can just retrieve the last 5 blocks, and we fix the first any arbitrary number of blocks to 0 or some values. The attack on Aegis 256 follows the same idea, and it's essentially it can be deterministically you can recover this AD star. And the attack on 128L, again, it has the same idea. We can step by step we can recover all the AD star. Only the difference here is that in each step here we can recover 2 128-bit blocks of this associated data. So these 3 attacks are the deterministic one. But when we move to ROCKAS, now we see that this attack is not a deterministic one. So again, we follow the same strategy using the information of the internal states. We determine the internal state, this internal states, and then using T3, we recover this AD star 3, and using the knowledge of T4, T6, T4, and T3, we go on and retrieve all these states. Now, this 6 T blocks determines the AD stars. But even after that, there is another extra T block, 128 blocks, which is unspecified. And to perform the attack, we need a collision on this one. So that is why this attack is not a deterministic one, and we need for the mount the attack, we need a 128-bit collision. So these are the proposed attacks in this work. So for Aegis 128 and Aegis 256, which has a attack size of 128 bits, we have the deterministic attack. For Aegis 128L, we also have the deterministic attack. And for ROCKAS, our attack is in complex error to the 64. And finally, we mounted this key committing attacks on Aegis and ROCKAS. And the attacks on the Aegis are experimentally verified. The attack vectors are in the paper, and we have tried to follow the same strategy for ROCKA attacks in 346, but we are unable to do so. So yeah, we have been able to recover AD star, but it is worse than the generic attack, so it cannot be considered as the valid attack. And thank you for your attention, sir.
Okay. So this time there's quite a bit of time for questions. So please ask. Okay, so what are the guys that are doing, for example, ROCKA without S? What are they doing differently such that your attack doesn't apply anymore or is worse than the generic attack?
Okay, so we don't have the figure here. So during ROCKA or the taxing, this last internal states so we recover some AD star, and after that, still some T blocks are remaining, which need collisions.
So you have more than one collision, you mean?
Yeah. And which is essentially for the collision, it is greater than this generic one.
Okay, more questions? Yeah.
Okay. So quick question. So what about the CMT1 security? Have you investigated?
Yeah, the FLOB security essentially means that the CMT1 is also broken. FLOB is the.
So your attack also implies
CMT1, CMT3, CMT4.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
More questions? Okay, then let's thank all the speakers of this session. Thank you.